Good evening, everyone. It's been an absolutely fantastic night. It's been a real pleasure to share it with all of you. I was asked to share some words about leadership and sustainability. As Mark mentioned in his opening statements, the Center has been building community capacity by building individual capacity for 25 years now, so we might have something to say on the topic. I want to start, though, by setting a little bit of context. Who's planning to turn off your lights between 8:30 and 9:30 on Earth Hour on March 29th? Yeah? Pretty good initiative. Okay. Yeah, I like it too. I'll probably be sitting there with my family in candlelight having a nice evening, and it's powerful. You know, you get some nice visuals out of it. How about Earth March? Anyone going on an Earth Day march in April? Anyone been on an Earth Day march? Yeah? Okay. So, you know, these are good initiatives, right? They raise awareness, they get people involved, they bring people together, but at a certain level, I'm kind of the Grinch of Earth Hour because it's not enough. I think similar to what Herb Barbalet just said in his video segment there, our job is ultimately to work towards building a world where these types of initiatives are no longer necessary. And I'm not allowed to be a downer at the end of the evening here, but we're all familiar with some of the challenges that we face as a planet, climate change, and so on that we've heard about. But the good news to end the evening on a good news story is that we actually know quite a lot, right? We know what our transportation system should look like. We know what our energy systems should look like. 13 trillion watts, you said, Ian? That we're going to need a lot more windmills than I have in the photo there. Thank you, Michael Geller and Mark Roseland, for knowing and telling us what our human settlements need to look like. We actually know a tremendous amount, and the Center has been a part of a movement to experiment with these ideas, to share the stories, as Ian just said, to broadcast them to other people. We also know a lot about just sustainability and the social programs. We know that Housing First works. We know that early childhood intervention works. We have all of this tremendous amounts of knowledge about how to build a better society, how to build a better world. And you know, a takeaway message from all this is we actually know enough. You know, we don't need another $500 million of research to push us to the 98% certainty ratio from the IPCC report telling us that we are, you know, actually 98% sure now we're causing climate change. So we know enough. And we've known enough for quite a while. From Rachel Carson's book in 1962, Silent Spring, to E.F. Schumacher's Small is Beautiful that Mark mentioned at the start of the evening in 1973, to the 7 Generations Law from 1142. We've had these ideas around for a long time. So, you know, it occurred to me as I sat down to start thinking about what leadership means and what it means for sustainability, is that we don't actually have a knowledge problem, right? We have a mobilization problem. And mobilization, it requires knowledge. It requires that we use knowledge in effective ways, something hopefully that the Center has been successful at doing over the last 25 years and will continue doing for the next 25 years. But rather than, you know, approaching this like an academic and giving you another 47 slides drawn from my extensive literature review on what leadership looks like, I thought I would, given the occasion, look inward, look at our family, look at the CSCD family about what we can learn about leadership and sustainability. And from thinking that through, I've come up with 6 rules for sustainability leadership. For those of you in my 403 class that are still here this evening, this might be on the final. The first rule, it's got to be a little bit weird. And not weird in the Western educated and democratic sense that Ian was just talking about. I'm talking about weird, like uncomfortable, right? The transformation, the disruption that Ian was just talking about, that's not going to feel good. You know, it's going to push us out of our comfort zones. It's going to make us feel uncomfortable. It's going to make other people uncomfortable that are watching us. And everyone in this room is familiar with strong and weak sustainability. If you're not doing something that's weird, you're not doing enough. And let's take a look past at some of the people affiliated with the Center, what we can learn from this new rule. There's Mark Roseland in 1983. That's his gerrymandered, rigged home solar greenhouse on top of his rented apartment in Portland, Oregon. That's a little bit weird, I think, probably at the time, Mark. But he didn't stop there, right? I mean, the greenhouse was nice, but that was just the beginning. That's Mark at his outdoor kitchen, where he lived with a group of friends in canvas tents as they cut down lumber, milled their own wood, and lived off the land in the forest of Oregon. That is weird, right? That is beautiful, and it is weird, and it's about building a better society. Thank you, Mark. There's Michael Geller in 1975, looking fabulous. That's Michael at on site at Broadway and Vine with the CMHC, the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, energy pilot project. Is Michael still here? Did that feel weird at the time, Michael? A little bit, yeah. Fantastic, right? I mean, the roots of what we've seen in Universe City are in this picture. And for the record, the picture's not actually blurry. That's just what his jacket looked like at the time in the 70s. It's a good look. Look at that thing, okay? I don't actually have to say very much about that. That's weird, right? It's fantastic and beautiful and different. And you know, I notice those things every time they rode by me. And I think every time one of those rides around the city, it's making people stop, think, feel a little bit uncomfortable, and pointing us towards a better future. Okay, so rule number 2. It has to challenge traditions. It's a related theme, but a little bit different. So let's see what we can learn from our CSCD family. This is Joanna Ashworth in 1982. She's at a UNICEF conference in Sucre, Bolivia, and she's using puppet theater to teach health outcomes. Isn't that beautiful? It's just fantastic. There's actually a paper mache making a booth over here for anyone. Joanna's going to hang around after the session and continue on that process. That must have pushed a few boundaries in Bolivia in the early 1980s. Oh, this is a beautiful photograph. The woman in the bottom left is Melanie Kahn. This is around 1983, she said. That's her son Jess in her lap, who would have been about 6 years old. And Melanie at the time was part of a woman-owned and run co-op called Plain Jane. And they were a construction and carpentry company. And this is them subcontracting to pour the foundation of a garage that they were contracted to build. It's just a beautiful picture. And really, you know, we can see the roots of all the people that have talked about the impact that Melanie's had on their own dreams. This is me. This is a picture of me in a... I told you I cheated. This is a picture of me in a Spirit Bear outfit, which I wore in the mid-1990s to protest for the conservation protection of the Great Bear Rainforest. This is me on the steps of the Vancouver Art Gallery. This maybe should have gone in the weird category, actually. In retrospect, I put it in the wrong rule. Anyway, okay, so rule number 3, we have to unite communities all over the world. We talk about sustainable community development, but that doesn't mean that we have partners all around the world. So I wanted to share some pictures from the CSCD family of our international work. Isn't this a fantastic photograph? That is Gretchen Hernandez addressing a group in the Bolivian highlands, talking about community economic development. Absolutely magical. Thank you, Lena, for the use of that word. This is the first graduating class from the Community Economic Development Program in Bolivia, all extraordinarily happy, and my understanding from Gretchen is it was quite the party. They don't mess around in Bolivia when they celebrate, so it's just a wonderful photograph and an incredible project. And I wanted to shout out to some of our international partners. This is Alberto Molinendo, who I've learned such a tremendous amount from. He works in such an incredibly trusted, respectful, and powerful way with the communities in Bolivia that he's been incredibly inspirational. And this is John Dagavos. Many of you have worked with John over the years. He's worked with us on the Community Capital Tool and volunteered his time and effort on student projects and dissertations. And John shares his warmth, his intelligence, his creativity, and for those of you that have been at the parties, his food with us when he's in town. Okay, rule number 4, it has to be inclusive. There's Carol Madsen, and the 2 beautiful children on the other side of the slide are Carol's children, and they are running their social enterprise lemonade and hot chocolate stand, which is a fabulous point and lesson in economic diversification, actually, if you think about it. You know, when it's cold, you've got the hot chocolate. When it's warm, you bring out the lemonade. And they are raising funding for Fragile X, which is a genetic disorder. So a spirit of innovation and creativity in social entrepreneurs. There's Mark again. This is at the Rio Plus 20 event, and he is wearing the hat of the Brazilian MTS, which is the Landless Peoples Movement, and a participant at the Alternative Peoples Forum a couple of years ago. You are rocking that red hat, Mark. I love it. Okay, rule number 5, it has to be fun. I think we've proven this rule already this evening. It's been a fantastic evening. This is Kiri Bird, a master's student at the center, working at the greenhouse